Hello, good morning. How are you guys? Okay, let's just do this. Oh, good, good. Good, good. I love it when things work right off the bat. First try, always good. Excellent. Well, hello and welcome to some yoga this morning. We've got a happy hips class about to happen, so if you want to join in, you are so welcome to just kind of checking some stuff out here as we kind of get set up and started. So if you've got a mat, roll your mat out and we can have a little bit of fun together this morning. I've got my computer set up right here. It's kind of how I run things. I don't run it off my phone. Just like to do a little more than that. And here, let's make things a touch brighter. So there we go. That looks good. That's wonderful. So let's grab our mats and grab a seat. Grab a nice little starting position. Let me just. Oh, hey, Janet. Good morning. How are you doing? I feel like we need to touch base and chat about tomorrow, which is Thursday. And yoga parties are awesome. That's all I have to say about that. We can have one together. Yeah, could be cool. It was nice though. I wish we could just go hang out like in a park somewhere and do yoga outside. But I feel like the weather's just a touch unpredictable, but we'll see. So let's just get into our little morning shenanigans. Today is just a nice gentle class where we focus in on the hip area. So many times people say that they just got such tight hips, they really like to stretch them out, and it's not really something we ever stretch out at home. If you've got like a tight hamstring, or if your wrist hurts or something like that, or your shoulder, you'll probably just do a couple little shoulder stretches. But when your hips are tight, we tend to just ignore them and tell them to get over it, which might just perpetuate the problem to make things worse. So then that's where, when we get into yoga and we finally take some time for movement, everyone's like, yes, hips, so many stretches for the hips, please bring them all my way. So that's what we will do today, is bring in all of those stretches. Doreen. All right, catch the replay. Always a great option. But thanks for sending a little message in this morning. That was cute. Okay. Well, so that's what we're going to work on. We'll do a little bit of movements laying down, and then we'll roll up to seated, and we'll get into some all fours today. So if you need a little pillow for underneath the knees, make sure you grab that, or maybe even a little block if you've got one handy. Never a bad idea. So we'll get going with some of that. I used to make it up to standing in my Happy Hips classes and work on some standing hip work, but I just find there's so many other fantastic hip stuff. Sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. We'll see how wild we get today. So that's what's going on. So let's clear the fog out of your throat. I keep drinking milk first thing in the morning, and that is clearly not what my body wants. So it is what it is. Yes. So let's start to sense into that body, start to sense into how we're feeling this morning. Checking in with yourself. Maybe those hips are yelling at you, saying, hey, I'm sore and tight. Maybe there's other areas in your body that are trying to communicate those things, or saying, oh, look how open and relaxed I feel. Maybe you just start to notice those little subtleties throughout the body, and how they're doing and how you're feeling. So if you are comfortable with it, maybe even close your eyes. That kind of helps you look a little bit inward, just a little bit better. And you can kind of go through and scan. Sometimes I even do a head to toe scan where I check in with my muscles and my joints, getting all the way through there. Hey, Elisa, good morning. Hope you're doing well today. Thanks for joining in on the hips classes. You're so consistent and wonderful about that. But yes, okay, back to the yoga. So yes, scanning through and feeling those nice little connections, and just building that awareness. There's so much power in that. I was listening to another podcast about awareness of the little things in life. And they just brought it into so many other categories other than just the body and the mind. And so as you start to build that, you can maybe see that overflow of being just more aware. Helps you be more in control. It helps you make better decisions through everything in life, even like down to your budget. Do I really need this thing? Is it worth the amount of time that I would have to work in order to pay for it? And how are you going to fulfill joy through those things? So it's my little tidbit for today. I just love learning about what different things do for the body and how yoga seems to really foster so much. Like, it can just be a workout, but it can be so much more than that as well. Let's connect in with the breath. So I'm going to take that nice big inhale, breathing it in, filling the lungs. And if you feel like your lungs are totally full, then keep breathing. Start to breathe into that abdomen area. Take that huge inhale breath and exhale. Start to let it all go. And let's practice just another one of those. Sometimes it takes a few of those breaths to really get nice and full. So breathing it in nice and big. Feeling the lungs, feeling that rib cage extend, maybe feeling the body get taller, and then breathing into that abdomen space. See if you can just bring in just a little bit more air in, and then exhale. Let it all out. Let's take one more, because 3 is a nice round number. So a nice big inhale. Feeling all of that fresh air filling the lungs. Imagine it swirling around in the lungs. Keep breathing, oh, so nice and big. Then exhale. Excellent. If you like to set an intention for your class, go ahead and do so. It brings you to your mat today. What are you hoping to get out of this time? And starting to live with just that touch of more purpose and intent, letting it be something simple and something true. After you have set that, maybe you repeat it. Perhaps you repeat it again. And then start to wake up the body, getting into a little wiggle into fingers, little wiggle into toes. Good morning, Donna. Welcome. I'm so glad you found the video. I was going to try to tag you in it, but it looks like you found it, so that's wonderful. All right, so waking up. I'm just flexing through my fingers. Sometimes just the wiggle doesn't quite feel enough, so I actually like to grab my fingers and kind of give them a little massage and press them backwards, going through each one, waking up some of that nice connective tissue. Giving your hands a nice little massage. I don't know if you've ever gotten your nails done, but my favorite part about it is just straight the hand massage, or even getting a pedicure. My favorite part is just the foot massage. I wish you could go in and just get a double foot massage. I wish that was a thing. One day, when life returns to normal, we can dream about these things. All right, let's roll on back and down. Coming into just a nice reclined position. Connecting the spine in with the mat. Maybe you start with those knees up towards the ceiling. Maybe you start with them down, long and extended. Totally your choice. My body knows where it's going already. It's starting to yawn, or my arms automatically started reaching up. That's pretty funny. So let's embrace that nice good morning stretch. Reaching those arms up overhead, starting to reach so nice and tall. Maybe you feel that nice big stretch through the arms and through the rib cage. See if you can find a little more length there. So nice, so good. Take that exhale. Release. Let's take one more nice inhale breath. Reaching those arms up. Maybe you extend the legs longer. Maybe you point through the toes. Feeling that low back lift up off the ground. Maybe as you just kind of reach and bend. Such a big stretch, and start to relax the body. And let's bring those knees all the way up and in, hugging them in towards the chest. Drawing them in, and just rocking a little bit from side to side. I tend to always start like this for a reason. I love the good morning stretch. This is a great way to work with that connective tissue right off the bat, kind of gets it all. And then the hugging the knees in is a nice counter move to that, because now as you feel that low back is pressing in towards the floor, and it feels nice just to take that little rock. Gives the low back a little massage, give those shoulders a little massage, and it's a great place just to start our movement journey. So let's find that little bit of stillness. Let's just bring the arms along out to the side. We'll start out with just a nice gentle twist this morning. So let's just drop the knees right on over towards the left, dropping them down. If the knees don't come all the way to the ground, that's fine. Usually there's two options. One is knees up and you keep that right shoulder glued down and in, or if you're dropping those knees down, odds are that shoulder might come up, might be painful on the arm. So if you bring that hand just in a little bit closer towards the body, you'll start to just respect that shoulder a little bit more. Just changing that angle just helps it relax, isn't adding as much torque on it. So choosing what you need there. Maybe gaze goes in the opposite direction, looking towards the right. Maybe bring that left hand on top of the legs. Either just giving those legs a little massage, giving that IT band a little bit of a rub, or even just having a little bit of stillness, letting that hand just rest and maybe feel that nice twist. Mostly just letting this be a nice rotation of the spine. Maybe roll a little farther onto that left hip, pressing the legs in towards the mat, but really just imagining that right hip rolling up just a touch more. And let's relax things back down. Start to bring those knees all the way up. Bring the legs over towards the right as you drop the legs down. Noticing that either connection of the knees or maybe of the shoulder. So adjusting that hand as you might need to keep that softness, to keep that nice alignment, and just being nice and gentle on the bodies. It's really not like there's no extra points given if your arm is perfectly straight. Gaze can go to the left. The hand can hang out on top of the legs, or maybe just give that body a little bit of a massage. Starting out with a twist is a great way just to warm up through the spine. Just kind of gives it a nice stretch all the way through here. So good. All right, maybe you start to press that left hip a little bit more, just adding a touch more depth into that twist, letting it feel good, and relax. Let's start to release this, bringing those knees back up, floating the knees over the hips. You can tuck the hands underneath the sits bones if that helps you stabilize, or maybe just keep them alongside the body. Pressing those shoulders in. Really try to get that nice connection of the low back. We've talked about that a little bit. I just want to keep working with that one little exercise we were doing earlier. So feet can be relaxed here if you prefer. If you want to work just a touch harder, you can bring the feet up so that those shins are parallel with the ground. And try to draw that belly button in, but mostly so that you're pressing that low back in. So try to get that little tip of the pelvis happening. Maybe you really bring the knees in a little bit closer in order to do so, feeling that nice connection. And then let's play around, building a bit of strength, finding that tipping point where you feel like that low back wants to lift up off the ground. So let's start to extend the knees. Maybe you just go an inch. Maybe you start to feel that lifting off right away. Take a moment, take that little reset, and then see if you can extend just a touch more. So we'll take a few of these nice and slowly so we can really sense in. Draw those knees in, hit that reset. Hold the belly button in. That kind of helps keep that stabilizing. Lots of times we'll press the belly outward to stabilize, but drawing it in is actually a little bit better for the body, keeping everything nice and tight. All right, let's start to extend those legs. Maybe they just come a little bit. Maybe you find some more length. Maybe you're finding all of that strength. And if you're good at these, maybe you're extending the legs completely. That includes a lot of core strength. And so you would have had to have practiced these before today to be working on those. So wherever you're at in your journey, let's draw those knees back in. And let's take a couple more here. So starting just to move a touch more And finding that length as you find that tipping point. Keep trying to stabilize. Keep using that core. Keep using those hip flexors. And let's draw those knees back in. Let's find some length and extend. Maybe use that exhale to extend. Be nice and strong. Remembering to breathe and bring those knees back in. So good. So maybe squeezing the knees in as close as you can get them towards the body. And extending, finding that length, so nice and strong, and bringing the knees back in. So having the hands tucked under the sits bones is a great way to help with this exercise. If you've done them all with the hands tucked underneath, start maybe now just by bringing the hands just alongside the body, and we'll take just a few more playing around. So maybe you just go with that little bit and feeling that connection. As soon as I untuck my hands, this becomes so much more challenging, and I love it. Let's draw those knees back in, and let's extend. Connecting in with that breath, and draw the knees back in. Let's take one more, extending, pressing maybe into those arms to help stabilize, and draw the knees back in. Wrap the hands around the knees or behind the knees. Take that little rock from side to side. How does that low back feel? Maybe a little bit aware of those hip flexors. How are they feeling? It's just such a subtle movement, but when you really slow it down like that, I don't know, you can feel it all throughout that low back, a little bit into those lower abdominals. And by that last one, my hip flexors were very aware that I was finding their limits. That's how we'll phrase that. Got a little bit of shaking happening. It was good. All right, let's pluck that left foot down just in towards the ground. Let's send those right toes up towards the ceiling. You can wrap your hands around the leg if you want to give that leg a nice little massage. Try to keep that chin tucked in. It's really common to start to roll into the top of the head here. So let's keep lengthening through the spine and keeping that arch just kind of where it needs to be, not overarching. Let's flex through the foot, starting to wake up into those hamstrings. Maybe even extend the heel a little bit longer, finding that nice length and strength. You might add a little point to the foot. Trying to really point through the toes. This ankle is really struggling with the point. Has been for a while. All kinds of tightness happening there, but my own fault for not working it regularly. Beautiful. Let's add another flex in. Extending through that heel, waking up through that calf, maybe through the back line of the knee, and maybe even into the hamstrings. You really press it up. If you want to focus a little more on that, you can release the leg to really just focus in on where you're feeling it. So good. Let's do one more point. Nice and strong. Beautiful. Feel that through the ankle, maybe through the shin. Excellent. Then let's start to just bring the leg all the way down, nice and long. As it comes down to the ground, maybe give that ankle or that heel a little tap and bring the leg back up. Let's start to lower it back down. So here is our movement. If this is feeling too intense for you, add a little bend to that knee. And you can do this with the leg bent. That makes it a little bit more gentle. Or you can keep that big length extended. Just working with that hip flexor, just a touch more, starting to wake it up with that nice little motion. But we have lots of stabilizing happening with that left foot being able to plant down in towards the ground. So you have lots of choices you can take here. You can choose to move nice and slow, or maybe you want to get a little momentum, a little bit of speed happening to lift and lower that leg, really whichever works best for you. Take exactly what you need in this movement this morning. I'm starting to feel that little warm up through the front of the hip, feeling that nice connection. So good. Excellent. Let's take just a few more. Beautiful. Lowering it down, bringing it back up. And let's bring that foot all the way up. Take a little moment, extend it, find that length, and then bend the knee. Take a little windshield wiper from side to side. Dropping the knees. So good. Excellent. And let's find that stillness. Really planting that right foot in. Let's bring that left foot up towards the ceiling. Extending it nice and long. Maybe wrap the arms around and giving that hamstring a little squeeze, a little bit of love. Bring a little blood flow here with that extra bit of movement of squeezing and releasing. Excellent. So good. And then let's add that nice flex to the foot, extending that heel so nice and long, really drawing those toes in towards the body. I'm going to release my hands here just so I can really focus in on that hamstring, not have to worry about the shoulders, anything like that. So nice big flex happening. And let's switch that over to a nice point of the toes. So pointing those toes right up towards the ceiling, starting to feel that maybe through the top of the foot, through the ankle, maybe into the shin. So nice, really waking up that foot, then flexing into the foot, extending that heel nice and long, letting it just be so nice and good. Keep pressing it up. Excellent. And let's point through the toes. Oh, yes. I don't know what it is, but my ankles are loving this morning. Had a nice little flex in, just take one more flex, really activating into that back line of the leg. So good, nice and slowly. Let's start to lower that left foot down towards the ground, extending the leg nice and long. Maybe that heel taps in towards the ground. Let's bring that leg right on back up. Excellent. Taking that same movement on the other side, lifting and lowering the leg. But as you do so, try to really imagine that hip joint and that femoral head. The femur bone is that thigh bone, the first bone that connects into the hip socket there. I'm going to try to just see the movement it's taking to lift and lower. So first thinking about that big old bone in the body, and then start to imagine all of the little muscles and tendons and fibers, connective tissue, all the way around that, starting to work and move as well as we start to envision that area of the body. It's kind of like being a cheerleader for that side of the body, and kind of cheers it on, gives it that extra little bit. They say a lot of our willpower and power of our mind can control so much of our body. Oftentimes it's not our physical body that wants to quit from a motion or a movement, it's our mind that gets fatigued, tells us to stop, tells us to take that break. So learning to work with the mind as we connect in with some movement builds that nice health, helps us maybe build that stamina, build up just a whole bunch of wonderful things, moving through, taking a few of these, letting it feel good on the body. Excellent. Maybe you're already starting to feel it on that left side. That could be because we got that right side already warmed up, and thanks to connective tissue, you can never just isolate into one specific muscle. There's always more going on. So as we actually warm up one side of the body in tandem, we are also warming up just gently the other side. So when we go to do the other side, oftentimes we need just a touch less, or it's hard to keep that exactly the same. All right, let's take just a few more. Lifting and lowering. Coming all the way up, extending that foot nice and tall. Let's bring a bend to that knee and take that nice little windshield wiper. Dropping it from side to side. Feels good. Beautiful. Let's find that stillness. Planting with the feet. Let's just reach those arms up overhead. Take that nice big long stretch, and imagine you're holding on to a beach ball or a volleyball or something nice and fun that you really enjoy. Notice what the shoulders are doing. Can you just relax those shoulders down a little bit? Maybe give them a little wiggle. Keep that chin nicely tucked and extend the fingers nice and long. Excellent. Keep finding that nice little reach, and take that exhale. Just start to reach up And bring the head and the shoulders up off the ground. And start to return that big old beach ball back overhead and bring it on, bring it back up. So here's our little motion. I'm just working a little bit through arms and shoulders. If you want to get more into the hips here, you're starting to draw the knees over the hips. So reaching it up. You reach hands to the outside of the knees, to the inside of the knees. And take a few of each. And if you want more still, you're really drawing those knees in towards the body, just like you would in that happy baby. Maybe even take a little moment drawing the knees in, setting those feet up towards the ceiling. And try to keep the legs there, so using tons of hips. And then reaching that up and through the legs. And so if you don't want to be lifting the head and the shoulders up off the ground, you definitely don't have to be. You can do the same movement, and just with the arms reaching up and really drawing those knees in towards the chest. Just nice little movement on the shoulders, warming them up. But as you lift the head up, you're getting into the spine. You're getting into those upper abdominals, strengthening through the core. And the core is super important for almost all of our postures. And so sometimes lots of hip problems and low back problems can be from having a weaker core. They can also be from having weaker glutes. Glutes are also big, massive muscles in our body. And when you don't have glute strength, other muscles have to compensate, meaning that they get fatigued a little bit easier. And then other muscles have to compensate on top of that, and that builds that soreness. All right, let's take one more here. Reaching it up, bringing it through, relaxing it down. Relax the feet down. So good. Let's make our way up to a seated position. So maybe roll it up, maybe roll your feet to the side and press on up, however you want to get there. So coming to seated, whatever is comfortable for you. No official rules. I like to sit cross-legged, but I always kind of mix it up. Sometimes I have a leg up, sometimes I stack ankles. Just need to check the time here. That didn't tell me yet. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Take a nice inhale breath. Get a little bit taller. And extend that head upward. Exhale. Relax those shoulders back and down. And take that nice inhale. Let's sweep those arms up. Just reaching up once here. Exhale. Bring the hands down to heart center. Reach those hands up and hold. Reaching it nice and strong. Let's just tip over towards the left. Take that nice little reach. Just feeling that through the side body. Maybe press those ribs out a little bit more. Maybe you press those hands up and over a little more. Just feeling that through the shoulder. Let's come all the way back up. Reaching nice and tall over towards the right. Pressing those ribs out, reaching those arms up, feeling all of that nice length. Let's come all the way up, reaching up nice and tall. Take that exhale, plant the hands right in front. Roll those shoulders back and down, nice flat back. And then let's start to walk hands a little bit more forward. Finding your version of a forward fold, but with a nice flat back. So letting it be good. Feeling that length. Maybe you tuck the chin in. Maybe it feels really good on the low back. Maybe it feels a little better on the hip. I've kind of enjoyed bringing a little sway motion. Rocking from side to side. Just gently. Something I like. There's no expectation that you guys do it either. All right, let's take one more breath, maybe taking a bit of stillness. And then on that exhale, let's press on into those hands, coming up towards seated. As we're hanging out here, let's just notice how we're sitting. Taking a little moment, let's just try our fire log pose. Why not, right? It's also known as double pigeon, so just imagine how that might feel. I'm going to start it by bringing my left foot, kind of bringing it in line with the edge of my mat. So the shin is making that nice line. Ideally, the knee kind of makes 90 degrees, so coming from the hip, to the shin is 90 degrees. So thinking of your body as becoming square. So you have your back, which is one edge of the square, and your thigh, which is the other edge, and then the top line of your foot is that third edge. But then what do we do with this other leg? So this is where things get tricky. So let's bring this leg in. Start first by just connecting the ankle on top of the knee. And start to notice how that right hip is feeling. So think about this thigh being just the other edge of your square. So whatever that might look like, maybe your knees are up super high, maybe you're feeling all sorts of tension through the hip. Goal number one, I would say, is relaxing that left leg back down, trying to keep the whole leg connected in, and then trying to work with bringing that right knee on top of left foot. So making a nice square all the way through. You have your back and your seat, you've got your thighs coming forward, and you have your shins stacked on top of each other to make the square pose, to make your fire log pose. Imagine your feet as little, or your legs as little logs on the fire, or also known as that little double pigeon, getting into all sorts of muscles in the hips. And this is not the most gentle pose that we could possibly be doing, but it's so good for the hips and feels really nice. Maybe you're leaning back tugs. That is a way to possibly make it easier as well. Maybe if you find this really easy, I never know. Some people just like plop into this no problem. My husband's really good at this one. She's like, well, what am I supposed to feel? And so if that's you as well and you're wondering what you're supposed to feel, well then let's start to add that forward fold back in. I'm planting the hands just in front of the legs and then finding that depth to find where you're feeling that. So ideally you're feeling it through that right hip. Whatever leg is on top, you'll feel a little bit more intensely, and getting into pretty much all sorts of stuff happening in the hip. Probably a little more for the side of the hip, maybe a little bit towards the back and into the glute. You might even be getting into that piriformis just a touch. I think it feels good there. If you have your hands down on the ground, you can play around with fun things like walking your hands over towards one side, adding a little twist in, and then coming back through center, maybe going towards the other side. Twisting just in the other way gently. Let's come on back towards center and come on back up. This was a decent hold for this pose. So let's start to release it. Maybe lean on back and extend the legs. And give them a little shake. Feel like, oh, he did so good, hips. Great work. Excellent. All right, let's just come into our other side here, just starting with cross-legged. So whichever foot was on top or in front or however you're sitting before, just make your way back into a comfortable seated position. And if you're sitting cross-legged, try to switch things around. Let's take that inhale and sweep those arms up, reaching up nice and tall. And take an inhale, come into steeple, interlace those fingers. See if you can reach those hands not just higher, but see if you can start to draw them back a little bit further, feeling that huge stretch on the shoulders, maybe aligning the arms with the ears or bringing them back even further than that. Feel that big squeeze on that mid-back. Excellent. Well, let's release, bring the hands back down to center. Bring the hands behind the back, interlacing them and reaching those hands down. Feel that openness. The same thing that we would do in our bridge poses, interlacing the hands behind the back and then actively drawing them down. Same movement here. Option one is to hang out here, lifting through the collarbone, getting that nice stretch. Or if you want to change this into a neck stretch and start to reach those hands over towards the left side, maybe they kind of peek out towards the side here, feeling that little stretch on the right neck. Chin can start, or ear can start to drop down towards the left. Chin can go up or tuck in towards the chest, just wherever feels best for you. It's nice. I like to add a little neck stretching in as well. Let's bring that chin towards neutral, drawing it in towards the chest, and bring it on up. Bring the hands back behind you, extend nice and long, feel all of that openness, and draw the hands towards the right side. So maybe they tuck out towards the side. Maybe start to draw that right ear down towards the shoulder, just getting into the neck a little bit. Adjusting that angle of the chin, finding where you need the neck stretch. Taking that nice breath. And draw that chin down. And you start to bring the head back up. Let's release those hands back behind you. Maybe you're starting to lift them up off the back and getting a bigger stretch. And let's release them. Bring those hands forward, planting them in front. Just starting off by taking that little forward fold on this side. I always feel this in my hip whenever I take that forward fold. That's why, and A, I do it so often, and B, I do it specifically in these hip classes. And it's starting to warm us up for that little double pigeon. So maybe you want to add that little sway in now that you know where we're going, making sure that you're feeling it somewhere. That little rock from side to side. I feel good about that. My spine likes it. Getting that little more movement in. Or maybe you just enjoy that bit of stillness. Beautiful. One more breath here. Nice inhale. Full exhale. Start to walk those hands back in, coming back up. All right, let's start to get ready to get into this. So I'm just gonna grab this left leg and just kind of tuck them out of the way so I can focus in on the other side. So I'm trying to first bring that front shin, finding that kind of 90 degrees with the knee and aligning that front shin towards the top of the mat. Beautiful. If this is like super challenging for you, the more you have the foot towards center, the easier this is, because you can think about this just as like a cobbler pose, where instead of bringing soles to touch, you bring ankle over top, and then you start basically working and wiggling the feet closer together. So I guess that's an alternative that I just thought of that might work a little bit better if this was just totally not accessible. So working on getting that leg down, and then let's bring this right leg, him hanging out, bring that ankle over top of the knee first. If you've got space here, that's okay. That's actually very normal. Notice if you're leaning back or leaning forward, maybe you just start to try to sit up a little bit, bring those shoulders more over the hips, and still just letting that space hang out there. As long as you're feeling something in the hips, ideally you're doing it right then. And as long as it's not like painful, if you're not pushing it over that edge, that's good. And then maybe as you start to relax in, you can start to connect that knee down towards the ankle, and just that little bit more. And trying to find that alignment of shin over shin, and thinking yourself of that square. So along the back for the bottom, you've got your thighs for the sides, and the shins for the top. So the nice little square pose. Ooh, are we getting some sunshine out? It's getting so nice and bright. I love it. It's like glowing. So good. So hanging out here. Still going to be working on this. If you're one of those people who needs that extra little bit of depth, still that option to add that forward fold in. And this is my really tight side, so I can at least connect my hands down, but I don't go too much further than that. But if you like get your hands all the way down and maybe even forehead onto the ground, maybe power to you, go ahead and embrace it. Just do it. Feel free to take that more as you want it. No shame. Take it. It's so good. And then if you can touch those fingertips down, then you can start to maybe walk them towards one side. One side will be a little bit easier than the other. One of them you're working with the muscles. One of them you're working against the muscles. So good. I'm going to come towards the other side. Beautiful. Let's come on back towards center. And then let's start to come on back up, sitting up oh so nice and tall, and then leaning back, releasing the legs, extending them long, and giving them that nice little shake, letting it Feel good, feeling that release. Maybe flop the feet from one side to the next. Excellent. Taking that little moment and then make your way just into a seated position. I'm starting to draw the soles of the feet together, coming into that cobbler pose or that down angle pose or butterfly pose. This is really bright, so I'm just gonna turn things down because I have it in manual mode, so it means I've got to manually do it. Beautiful. There we go. So finding a nice cobbler variation. This gets into those inner thighs. And another one where knees might be really high up or might be farther down. Just all depends on how the hip bone connects to the leg bone, basically. So if you want to play around with difficulty level, feet can be farther apart or farther away from the sits bones or closer towards the sits bones, either in or that out, or knees can be up higher, or you can actively be pressing them lower. So good. Just a little bit of inner thigh work there. Excellent. All right, let's start to bring those knees right on back up. And let's start to roll on into our all fours position. So coming into hands planting under shoulders, knees planting under hips. Oh, time goes so fast, but that was a good stretch. That nice little double pigeon. Let's take an inhale, just looking up, dropping the belly down. Take that exhale, pressing the spine up towards the ceiling. And taking another one, inhale, looking up. Feeling that nice arch through the back, nice back bend. And let's counter that, pressing the spine up nice and high. And find your way to neutral. And then just press the hips out from side to side. So really just focusing on pressing one hip out and then pressing to the other side. Having it be a little bit more intentional, and then just that sway, maybe start to get into that IT band a little bit. Excellent. All right, let's find our stillness and let's make our way into a low lunge position. So starting by bringing that left foot forward, I like to come up onto my knees first and then bring that left foot up and out. And then just resting forearms hanging out on the knee here. You can adjust the distance between this back knee and the ankle. The farther apart they are, the more challenging it'll be. The closer together, the more stabilizing and gentle it'll be. And so if you need to take that in a bit, you can go right ahead and do so. Or if you want to find that extra length, as you add that length, you're also bringing the hips no longer in line with that back knee, so everything pushes forward, and that's when you really start to get into that stretch of the right hip flexor, and maybe even into the quad a little bit, starting to feel those little sensations there. So that's what we're going for here. Try not to be hunching into the shoulders here. Let's take and find that little bit of length. Keep rolling that left hip back. Press that right hip forward. See if you can find that alignment of squaring the hips forward, and maybe really press those hips forward. Excellent. If your knee allows it, maybe you start to add a little bend to that back knee, lifting the foot up off of the ground, or you can reach with either your right hand or your left hand. It really doesn't matter. Today I feel like reaching for it with the right hand. And starting to get a little more into that quad stretch. And so as you bring that foot in towards the sits bone, that's when you're feeling it. This is pretty tough on the kneecap. And so just really listening to your knee here. And then if you want to add more, as you kind of press those hips forward, you can intensify the lengthening and that stretchy sensation through there. Excellent. And if you can't reach for the foot, a strap is a wonderful tool to use, or a dog leash. I'm sure that would work. A tie, the strap of a house coat works really well. I say dog leash because I'm looking at one and I was like, yes, that would work very well. Even has a little loop at the end so you could lasso the foot. All right, I'm gonna relax this foot without slingshotting it, releasing that foot and bringing it back down. Just really wanted to get some quad stretch in today though, so letting that feel Good. And then start to extend that left leg nice and long. And start to bring the toes up off the ground, flexing that foot to get into that hamstring stretch. Feel free to hold on to a table or the wall or anything if you need to work on balancing here. And then to add on to that intensity, that's when you add that forward fold or start to walk the hands down the leg. Pulls more on that back line of the leg. Creates a little more sensation. Beautiful. The more you flex and draw the toes inward, the more you'll feel that through the entirety of it. Because as you fold forward, you feel that through the glute and the hamstring. And as you flex the foot, you're getting into the ankle and the calf. All right, let's start to come on back up. Start to add a bend back to that knee. And let's release. Bringing that knee back in. And switching to the other side. So now right foot steps forward and coming to that lunge position. Taking a few moments maybe to get into it. Maybe you bring just hands onto the knee, or maybe you bow things forward, bringing forearms onto the leg. Let's roll right hip back, press left hip forward, and maybe you push both hips forward to start to feel that through the quad or just the hip flexor. Some people feel it in quad here, some people feel it in hip flexor. And so that's why I mentioned both. Excellent. Starting to notice how that's feeling. How's that knee doing? Feel free to roll your mat up or grab a little pillow for underneath there. Excellent. If you want that a little more, maybe shoulders come over the hips. Maybe keep pressing those hips forward. Maybe you relax ever so slightly and getting ready to bend that left knee. And we'll see how we do on this side. Excellent. Maybe you reach on back with that left hand. My hamstring always gets mad at me whenever I try this. I don't know what's going on there. I just want the quad stretch, but my hamstring always seems to fight it. I'm going to give it one more shot. I will not accept that defeat. No, we're not. All right. Defeat accepted. That's okay. C'est la vie. But if you've got it and it's feeling good, maybe you're really drawing that heel in towards the glute. Taking that round of breath, and then without slingshotting the foot, see if you can release that foot back down. Excellent. And then let's start to extend that front leg, coming into our hamstring stretch, flexing the foot. Just a nice little runner stretch here, hanging out. Drawing those toes in. You can hang onto the windowsill right next to you, or whatever you got there to help balance. You can start to bow forward, or even touching the hands onto the ground. Or if you've got a couple of blocks to add some height in, that's a nice option to get going as well. Bring that nice flex in, really trying to draw those toes inward. And trying not to hunch too much into the shoulders. Keep trying to find that little bit of length. So good. All right, let's start to come on back up. Bring just a gentle bend to that knee to release. And then let's bring the knees down. And we'll actually just make our way into a reclined position. So no overly graceful way to spin around and drop things down. Finding that nice connection of the spine. Now let's just hug the knees in towards the chest here. Let's just give those hip flexors just a nice little bit of a break. Giving that low back just a touch of a massage. Excellent. Finding that little bit of stillness. Let's drop left foot down. And bring right ankle onto left knee and start to send that right knee backwards. So good. Feeling that nice little stretch. Feel free to adjust through the arms as you so feel. You would like to. They don't have to be alongside the body, always reaching down. If you'd rather reach up overhead or hang out a little bit with box arms, tucking the hands underneath the head. With a nice pillow, letting the elbows draw open. That feels great. Let's just actively keep pressing that right knee back, feeling that stretch through the right side. Maybe this feels a little easier. My little double pigeon probably helped out with this little version of it. So good. Taking that exhale, relaxing, and starting to release, just coming just a little bit more back towards a neutral position. If you want to go for that normal like figure four or reclined pigeon that I regularly do, you can just start to float that left leg up. If you want to try something a little different, you can start to work more in towards eagle legs. So the pigeon version has ankle onto knee, and then the leg floats up, and then you can reach on through and grab the legs however you'd like. But the eagle version, you're trying to connect knee over knee. So just kind of getting into things just a little bit differently. And then you float that left leg up and maybe just grab onto the knees, onto the legs. But the feet aren't flopping out towards the side. So that is the really normal version that ends up happening here. We're trying to bring the feet pressing downwards. To see how I've got my feet in line as if I was standing on the ground or even standing on stairs, or because they're at different angles. And so getting that big squeeze on the legs, and maybe feeling that through that right IT band as you create that little bit of resistance. So I have this right leg across, but it's actively pressing in to that left leg. Legs are really pressing, and this is definitely more of an active pose, definitely not that passive pigeon of reclining things in. And then you can start to hug the legs in towards the chest, or you can leave the knees stacked over if you're getting a nice stretch there. But bring the legs in a little bit more. It just helps the body just relax here just a touch. Make sure those arms and those shoulders aren't holding too much more tension than they actually require. So if you were in that pigeon variation, we're going to now add a twist onto it. So let's get ready for that. Let's release those arms out nice and long. And let's drop the legs down towards the left side. So if you have the knee over knee and feet coming down, we're not so much worried about planting that foot in, but we're trying to kind of tuck the foot underneath that other leg, keeping that little weird alignment. Odds are that right shoulder is coming up off the ground. That's A-okay. You can take a little moment and adjust and try to wiggle it back down, or just bring that hand in a little closer towards the body. So whether you're pretty much still up top or dropping things down, just thought I'd add some variety to our twists today. So this is the eagle leg twist variation. If you hate it, that's okay as well. You can always transition this into your favorite version of a twist, or maybe you need to embrace it, working with something that you don't love all the time. Sometimes that can be just as honoring for the body, building that character within us, working with what we don't love. So it's like that sandpaper, that iron sharpens iron. It must not be comfortable to have that happen. But that's where real growth can happen, real change can start to happen. If you want a little more on the hip, you can just imagine rolling that right hip back a little more. You probably won't actually move it because the legs are down, but that'll start to stretch a little bit deeper into some of those muscles there. It's a really subtle movement. It's really hard to demonstrate and show what I'm talking about, but when you feel it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So you kind of play around with that little rolling back movement, just creating tension and stretch. Beautiful. Let's start to just relax into it. Maybe start to press into the feet. Bring the knees back up. Bring the arms back in alongside the body or wherever they'd like to be. And uncross the legs. Take that little windshield viper from side to side. So good. Find that stillness. And then let's bring left ankle on to right knee. And we're first going to start by sending that left knee back. So just kind of finding that openness through the hip. hanging out here. Maybe you're really actively kind of drawing that leg back. So still getting just lots through the sides of the hips today. Lots through that IT band. A little bit into quads, a little bit into hamstrings. All sorts of stuff. Good for the hips. Starting to release different ways. Excellent. I'm liking the hands up overhead for this moment in time. I think tomorrow we'll do a shoulders class. So to find some openness and some strength in the shoulders and the arms. That's what I'm feeling like I might need. Tomorrow will also just be a quicker class, just to add some variety in for those people who maybe don't have a full hour to do that yoga. All right, let's relax through that left side, starting to draw that leg back in. If you want just that pigeon variety, go ahead. That's what you did on the other side, but try to keep both sides the same here. So let's try for that eagle version of it. Starting to align knee over knee and starting to bring that left foot squeezing in, maybe even bringing those toes pointing towards the long edge of the mat or the heel. So that foot pointing towards, that short edge of the mat, towards the bottom. Get that nice squeeze happening. Still an option to totally hang out here. You don't even have to lift that right leg off the ground. It can just be that squeeze happening. Maybe you're feeling enough sensation. Even here can be intensive. And then if you want that little bit more, if you want it to be more active, you'll be using more of those hip flexors. Because all of the muscles kind of involved as you float the legs up and keep squeezing, trying to find that alignment of the feet. So both soles of the feet are pointing downwards. Keep pressing that low back in towards the mat. And I've just grabbed onto my mat to help kind of create that little sensation of maybe it's a little bit more than pressing the hands in. It's just that little grippiness, and I can still find length through the spine here. I've been working on that huge squeeze through the legs, letting that feel intensive. Maybe you add a little pulse in, drawing the knees inward. If you've got more internal rotation than external rotation, this might feel really easy for you. This one is one that's actually really challenging for me. You can see that I'm really struggling to keep this foot here pointing down towards the ground. It's just kind of just all sorts of weirdness I feel through that hip. It's just kind of what happens. Also, knees or hands can be on the knee or on the hands if you'd like as well. All right, let's make this into a twist. Reach those arms out and then start to drop the entirety of both legs down towards the right side. So really trying to keep those knees stacked in. Odds are, let's think about this, that right knee is pressing against the left foot. Drawing it in towards the ground. Gaze can go to the left. Maybe you roll a little more onto that right hip. Maybe you imagine that left hip drawing back to add that extra bit of resistance in. If you have lots of openness through the hips or through those IT bands, you might just not feel, you're going to feel that sensation a little bit less. Just be grateful for the openness. That is really quite a nice treat. Feeling that just connection in. Letting it feel good here. Taking another full round of breath. Nice inhale. Full exhale. So good. Remembering to breathe. Let's return that neck back towards neutral. And start to press into those feet. Bringing the feet and the knees back up. Uncrossing the legs. You take that little windshield wiper if that's how you'd like to release. And then let's hug the knees in towards the chest. Maybe you reach on through the knees for the feet. As long as we can get those head and shoulders back down. Alright, go to feet, ankles, back of the knees. Whatever you want to hold on to for that little happy baby. And feet go up towards the ceiling. Knees draw in towards the chest. How do those hips feel here? Hopefully they feel good. And then take a few moments to engage in a little freestyle. Is there another pose or movement you want to take before settling in into your Shavasana? Maybe you want to go for that double waterfall. We did a lot of prep for that, so maybe that will feel really good. Good for the blood flow. Brings the blood flow into the center, out of the body, and out of the feet. Feels really nice. Little legs up the wall. Maybe you want a little bridge pose. Just finding length through that front line of the body. More strengthening through the glutes. Excellent. And when you're ready, you can find yourself in that final pose, that Shavasana pose, as long as it's relaxing, as long as the body, the mind doesn't have to really work to stay in it, then that is a great option. So that's why just that reclined position is often used. The body can just melt down and in. You can roll those shoulders back and down, have that little tuck of the chin. And just finding what feels really nice, really good for you, for your body. So good. Let's connect in. Let's take a nice big inhale breath. Breathing in, filling the lungs, and breathing into that diaphragm area, and pressing that belly button outwards, taking that huge breath, and exhale, release. Take 2 more of those. Big inhale. Breathing it in really nice and big, getting ready to sigh it out. Big inhale and release. One more. Feeling that breath fill the lungs, feeling that rib cage expand. And let it go. Take a little moment. Maybe you remember your intention you set at the beginning of class. Maybe you set an intention for the rest of your day. This is where I will leave you to enjoy your Shavasana. Take the time that you need. Let it be fun, let it be good, let it be relaxing. So find that goodness, find that stillness. I hope you have just a lovely rest of your day or rest of your evening. Thanks for taking advantage of some of these free classes that I'm trying to bring out into the world. It just means in the world to me to get to share something I really love to do, which is yoga. So may the rest of your day be filled with joy, and may you always be blessed. Namaste.